Today we have a very special guest, the Jewish spokesperson of the Republican Party, the one and only Elizabeth Pipko. Elizabeth, thank you so much for your time. I'm so happy to see you.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
So let's start by getting to know you a little bit better for those who don't know you yet. Besides being one of the Republican Party's top spokesperson today, you also started out as a model. How did you go from modeling to becoming one of President Trump's closest Jewish supporters?
Yeah, so it's a shockingly long story, so I'll try to sum it up for you. But basically, I was living in New York and I was doing some classes online and modeling and living a very non-political life. And then Donald Trump announced that he was running for office. I volunteered a few times for his campaign with my younger brother. And then basically, we decided we just kind of wanted more. I sent a letter to the data director of the campaign who offered me a job. My brother and I started on that campaign, obviously 2016, so we're very young. I was 21 and he was 18.
Wow.
We obviously won that election. On that campaign, I met my husband. I also met the incredible Trump family and kind of started a 10-year-long journey that I never expected. And it all kind of started from there. I ended up obviously marrying my husband, who I met there. I got to marry him in the president's home, which was a dream come true and an incredible gift from
Wow.
the Trump family. Yeah, and it's been the ride of a lifetime. I never expected any of it, but it all, like, people always ask me, how did this happen? How do you get to where you are? And I say pray a lot, because none of this happened because of me. Like, yes, I worked my butt off, but it's a lot of luck, and
Oh,
we all know luck just comes from God. So it's really just whatever God's plan is. So all credit to God, but it's been an incredible journey.
oh my God, tell me about the wedding.
Yeah, we got married in Mar-a-Lago, December 2018. So after we got engaged, we were, I guess, telling members of the Trump family, and because we met on the campaign, and I guess we're together because of him, they wanted to give us that gift of getting married at Mar-a-Lago. So for those that say that they're not nice or anti-Semitic or anything else, please know they literally threw us an Orthodox Jewish wedding at the president's home in Mar-a-Lago, and it was
The president was
incredible. And
was the rabbi?
no, certainly not. My rabbi was the rabbi. The president actually couldn't even make it because the government shut down that December because of Chuck Schumer, and he was overseas, I think, with the troops. But it was in the president's home, and it was incredible. And again, another thing that you just don't expect to ever happen in your life. And it all happened because God had a crazy plan.
I agree. Story for the kids. So, as President Trump's first year in the White House come to an end, I want to take you back a little bit, as you say, to President Trump's campaign period. What can you tell us a little bit about that time? How was it to work under President Trump in his campaign?
Yeah, are we talking very, very beginning or like the 2024 campaign?
2024, the last campaign.
I mean, for a lot of people, I don't think they understand. I mean, most people couldn't understand it unless they've lived it, like some of us had. Even on the 24 campaign, there was a lot of people that were new to, the Trump train, as we call it, and new to Trump world. And then there were some of us who were literally there from day one, like myself and my husband and my brother, who all, remained with him for the last 10 years. And to go from being the underdog in 2016, people thought you weren't going to win, then you win, going out as he did, knowing how bad things were for those 4 years, everyone in the world telling us he was never going to run again, never going to make a comeback. Then, we moved to Florida basically because he told us he was relaunching his campaign and that we were going to be a part of it. And kind of working for him, knowing that not only did the whole world believe he had no chance of this comeback, but I mean, he and a lot of his staff and supporters and family members were also being investigated at the same time. People don't realize really the hell that they put a lot of us through. So for a few years, it was really, really scary. It was very difficult. We used to joke on election day, we're either going back to the White House or we're going to prison because we had no idea what was going to happen. Because, I mean, Joe Biden literally sent his FBI to everybody that was working for Donald Trump and threatened us all the time. So it was a really, really scary period. Then obviously the president is, getting indicted and the president gets shot in the head. It's kind of like a really, really scary movie that you just wait for the ending, hoping it'll all work out. And obviously it did, but it was scary and it was difficult. And I don't know how many people would have wanted to stick around for that, considering how dangerous it would have been for them had we lost. But I have no regrets, of course. And I mean, working for him has been incredible, and I hope to continue and get to work for him in the admin as well while he's in there. But it was more difficult than I think any political campaign in American history for sure.
Do you remember the moment of winning the election? What was it like? Where were you in this moment?
Yeah, I was at Mar-a-Lago probably like 6 or 7 feet from the president. The states kind of start rolling in, and I think North Carolina came in, and it was one of the bigger ones, and we just kind of all looked at his face, and everyone at Mar-a-Lago was clapping and screaming, and Donald Trump is eating his meal and totally unfazed, probably because he had all the confidence in the world, much like in 2016 when the whole world thought he was going to lose, and he came in to talk to his staff that morning and told all of us that we, in fact, were going to win the election that night. Same thing, 2024, he was unfazed, very confident. I think we took North Carolina and Georgia, maybe Florida as well, and we just kind of all looked at each other. We knew that it was over. We left Mar-a-Lago, headed over to the victory party, and that was it. I mean, it kind of doesn't hit you till weeks later. I learned that in 16. I don't know if this one has hit me yet still, but I mean, it was incredible. And again, knowing how much we've gone through, 10 years is a really, really long time to commit to someone who really was at one point a stranger to you. And it has been such a ride, and I can only imagine it's still going to somehow get crazier because it always does.
It seems like you have a really good relationship between you two. How is he behind the cameras?
I mean, people don't want to believe it, and I understand why because they've painted him in like the scary character kind of way. But he's one of the nicest, funniest people in the world. I mean, I could never say a bad word about him just because I've gotten to know the president and his family, and they have been probably better to me and my family than a lot of family and friends that I have. They're kind and decent and loyal and incredibly funny and very down to earth. And again, people forget. They always say when you meet him, you kind of forget you're talking to the president. That's the exact experience I have every single time I'm around him. You forget. And then you walk away and you realize I just made a really inappropriate joke to the president of the United States because he just makes you feel so comfortable. But he is one of the kindest, most charismatic, hilarious, just like special, original kind of people. Like he's a legend, and they don't make a lot like him. When they say you have that X factor, he has it. Most of us do not have it, but he's a very, 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 very cool person.
It sounds like he is. What do you think the difference between his first term and his second term?
I mean, naturally, he's a different person. A lot of time has gone by, and a lot of crazy things have happened. You don't often go in back to the presidency with a term in between that was somebody else's. It only happened once in American history before, I think it was Grover Cleveland. So you took 4 years off. In those 4 years, you kind of watched all your work get reversed. You watched the country kind of go backwards. In the meantime, you watched your own country that you love basically go after you. You got shot in the head. Um, he's a different man. I think deep down he's the same, but he obviously I think went through what 4 years, but really like 50 years worth of trauma and adventure in those 4 years. So I think he went in really just more decisive, more focused than ever before because A, he knew how quickly 4 years could go. He knows how hard it is now to get something actually done when you're in that position. I think in the first 4 years that was new, not only to him, but to all of us and all his staff. So he knows how hard it is, and he knows how many people are going to work against him. And he also knows that, this is it. This is the last hurrah. He's got now 3 years left, and then it's probably over. And it was such a journey to get there. I think he knows that he has to be the most consequential president we've ever had. And I think so far, so good on that path.
I agree. How do you define the Republican Party's identity today? In what ways has it changed over the past decade?
It's a good question because I think when Donald Trump first ran in 2015, let's say, I was 20 or 19 or 20 years old. I did not really align with either party. I remember watching, I think it was 17 candidates on that stage in 2016 and just kind of thinking I don't like most of them. The reason I liked Donald Trump was because he was different. The reason I think Donald Trump won is because he was different, which just in and of itself means that most people, even registered Republicans, did not actually feel very connected to the Republican Party that we had because they wanted this outsider so badly. And then he came in and, I mean, really rebranded the party. I think gave life to it's a dying party. I think he changed the country in a, very special way. And I think he changed the Democrats, but I think he mostly changed the Republicans. And I think for the next 10, 20, 30 years, they're going to look back and try to learn from what Donald Trump did in 2015 and how he got a bunch of people that really weren't supposed to have wanted to vote for him ready to come out in the snow and the rain. It didn't even matter what they were up against to go and circle his name because they thought that he was fighting for them in a way that nobody ever had before. And I think the party is different. I think the party is still going to keep evolving because that's what they do. But I think the way that the Democrats have kind of destroyed themselves in the process has been the greatest gift to the Republican Party because as much as the party has to learn and grow and kind of figure out what to do when Donald Trump's gone, they have the lesson of President Trump. They know how to do it now. They know what gets out those voters. Democrats are the opposite. They actually have no idea because they've never gone against someone like him before. So I think both parties will struggle moving forward, but in very, very different ways because of him.
I agree. We're seeing a troubling rise in anti-Semitism across the United States these days. And we're also starting to hear voices, very strange voices from the Republican right, like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and others speaking out against Israel. What's your take on that?
Well, I hope everyone pays attention to who is doing it and that while they're speaking out against Israel, they're also very, very vocal in speaking out against Donald Trump, which should tell you just how closely aligned President Trump is with that relationship that we share with Israel. I think in general, anti-Semitism, I've talked about it for years, obviously, but it's been around long before I ever existed, and it probably will continue to be around long after. It is the world's easiest scapegoat, the easiest trope. Everybody loves to blame something on the Jews. If you want to be lazy, you just have to blame anything going on in your life on
No
Israel,
Jews, no
on Bibi
news.
Netanyahu. Exactly. And you know that somebody will catch on. So I don't really think about it as much as others do, just as a proud Jew. I think it's going to come and go just as it always has. And only because of social media do we think it's probably a bigger risk than it is. At the same time, like I said, people should realize as much as Donald Trump got hate in 2016, he has been the greatest president for American Jews. He's been the greatest president for the connection that we have with Israel, and I think for Jews worldwide, honestly, and standing up for decency and for law and order and religious liberty and everything that should matter to
I
Jewish people.
agree.
So I think he's been wonderful. At the same time, we don't know. Like I said, we don't know what's going to happen after him, but I'd say it's very reassuring knowing that whatever's happening on Twitter, whatever's happening wherever you get your news, is not really happening in the Oval Office. It's not happening with the leader of the free world. And in fact, he actually believes the polar opposite of what a lot of these maniacs have to say. So just tune them in and out and just remember they're going to get tired eventually.
Yes. Do you think those voices could pull the Republican Party in an anti-Israel direction?
I think it's less about those specific voices and honestly more just about the sentiment that we see across the world. I mean, obviously, before October 7th, I think people had a very different view of Israel. I would have naively assumed after October 7th, people would be more supportive of Israel, considering what everyone kind of watched happen that day and what they know that we were suffering with for years. I mean, it took 2 years to get hostages home, including American hostages, and no
Thanks to
one
Donald
really,
Trump.
exactly, and no one really was paying attention. And I think for me, realizing that that had the opposite effect, people watched Israel sit and get attacked in that way and then try to defend itself and then turn on Israel kind of proved to me that not a lot makes sense and that people are very, very quick to believe whatever it is that they want to believe. And it takes people very, very strong moral character to do the right thing. And it can get hard because you do it at a time when the whole world does the opposite. We only have really Donald Trump. Well, how many European leaders are sitting there and saying that we recognize the state of Palestine? Donald Trump is saying, no, we're not going to do that because that emboldens Hamas. So I think based on what we have right now, I don't know what the party is going to turn into, what either party will turn into. I think anti-Semitism obviously is on the rise, anti-Zionism is on the rise, but I don't know if it's going to take over the party as much as it's kind of just taken over people's minds around the world. And like a lot of other sicknesses, it's going to come and go. But
Mhm.
we have to wait and see. And again, Donald Trump would not be as popular as he was if there was not common sense still around in our country and around the world when it comes to Israel. So I'd say to wait it out and see what happens. But it has certainly changed the world in ways that I didn't expect. And maybe I was naive, but it's been very, very strange to watch people see the exact same footage that I saw on October 7th and then somehow believe Israel should not defend itself. Very, very strange, but it just proves that we have real issues going on in the world, real suffering with a lot of people in society. It has nothing to do with Jews or Israel. They're just taking it out on us. And that is going to come and go like it always has.
Yeah, I agree. We have to thank God every day that we have President Trump in the White House. One of the conspiracy theories we've heard from some of these circles, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, was the claim that Israel was behind the murder of Charlie Kirk. What do you think about that?
You know, this one actually kind of hurt Charlie's death, I think, affected me in a way that maybe I even wouldn't have expected. I never could have imagined that my friend would get killed in that way. But I took it really, really, really hard. Anyone that knows me knows that I kind of hate most people in politics, and I have no problem saying that. He was one of the really, really, really best people that I've ever met in my life. He was one of the best that we had, I think, on the Republican side, one of the best we had in general, just as like a young leader that I thought would have definitely changed the world. Growing up, people said he would have been a future president. He always said he
Yeah.
didn't want to be, but I totally believe he could have been. So I think when he died, I think it messed with people. Again, it messed with people in a way that they didn't expect. I have talked to Charlie about Israel multiple times. I think the worst part of all of this is not how ridiculous it sounds or how it's putting Jews in harm's way or anything else. I think the worst part of this is that Charlie would have hated all of it. And that's the part that actually hurts the most. They are twisting his literal legacy, all of which is documented because they want to get clicks on social media. And it's really sad. And again, Jews are going to get hurt in the process, obviously, and that hurts too. But the worst part really is that Charlie gave his entire life telling us what he thought on countless issues, and then they kind of threw all that away when he died trying to get a few clicks on social media. And that part really hurts, and I can only imagine that he doesn't like much of what he has seen since he left us. So that part is sad, but again, like I said, when you are suffering mentally and you want to blame your problems on someone or you want to go viral or whatever it is, you blame the Jews. It always seems to work.
What was your relationship with Charlie?
I mean, we were friends. We were not best friends. I will not pretend that we were, but he, I mean, he and I crossed paths all the time. If you were in Republican politics, you would have known Charlie, met Charlie, crossed paths, something. He was incredibly supportive always. I remember when I came out with a book, he messaged me, I think within 24 hours, just saying, let me know when you want to come on the show to promote. Anytime I saw him, he told me how well I was doing. He was someone that I looked up to, honestly. I mean, before interviews, before TV segments, if I wanted to get someone's opinion, apart from really listening to what President Trump was saying or asking my own dad, I would right away say, what has Charlie said on the topic? Like, that's what I wanted to listen to. He was one of the brightest people in the world. And it's hard to know how few people in the industry actually care about what they say, actually believe in what they preach, practice what they preach, really love America the way that he did. Most people don't. They say that they do, but they don't. You find out what they're doing in their private life and you realize none of it matters. He was one of so few people that, I mean, he really walked the walk. Everything he ever said was true. That's how he lived his life. So he was a big inspiration for me and a lot of people. And without him, there's like a weird void in the Republican Party. It makes me very nervous about the future. And I've watched
Why?
more Charlie Kirk videos since he's died than when he was here, and it made me appreciate him even more, which has been hard too. But he was a very good person to know. He was a very good friend, and I mean, my heart hurts genuinely for America, who I know, like I know my country is worse off because Charlie's gone, and that's really hard.
Why are you nervous?
There's not a lot of people that are able to bring people together, preach the right message, um,
Change their minds.
change their minds, appear genuine too. There's a lot of people that are brilliant, but you don't believe them, right? You are impressed by their knowledge, but they don't make you want to walk in their footsteps and live like them. Charlie had the ability to actually change young people's minds and change the way that they lived their lives. He was someone that I would want my children to look up to. And I don't know a lot of people like that exist, not just in politics, even just like in our culture. It doesn't happen because culture and politics and social media, they promote all the worst things and they bring out all the worst things. And there just aren't a lot of people that you would want your kids to look up to. It doesn't exist. And that's okay. But then when one of those people is around and he's taken from you in like the most gory, horrific way possible, it's very traumatic and it's very hard and it makes me very nervous, not only because he's gone, but also if there is another Charlie Kirk around or anyone else that has a tiny piece of that in them and that learned from him, they might be scared to go out and do the same thing because apparently when you do it, you get assassinated and people applaud and celebrate because they didn't agree with you politically. So that's really, really sad to know. And I think a lot of people would change the way that they operated after seeing that shooting. Even me, I remember seeing my husband that day and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. Obviously, I'm here with you, so I still am. But I say no to certain events, and there's things that I can't imagine myself doing because I watched that, and I don't have security like he did. I was much less, or I am much less like popular than he ever was, but I'm scared too. I get the same death threats. We all do. And I think a lot of people will shy away from standing up, I guess, for what they believe in because of what happened to him.
Wow. I agree. I still can't believe that he's not with us anymore. It's so hard
Yeah.
for me also. Do you feel there's a witch hunt against President Trump?
Yeah. I mean, witch hunt is like a good safe word because we've used it forever, but I think anyone out there, even if you hate Donald Trump, which a lot of people do, if you're honest with yourself, I think you would admit that the majority of like mainstream media is skewed against him. The majority of, celebrities and people out there that have any kind of following are vocally against him. I mean, common sense obviously would show that he was really attacked by Joe Biden and his Justice Department for 4 years. And it wasn't like an attempt to silence him, it was an attempt to throw him in prison and have him die in jail. Like what has happened to him, I've never seen happen to anyone in my life. And that's kind of why I admire him so much because I would have ran away a long time ago. But I think, and again, anyone that hates him might not want to admit it. But I think even if you dislike him, you should be able to be honest with yourself and see that there has been an attack on him and his words and his character since he first announced in 2015. And when he won in 16, when no one believed that he could, it only got worse. People only got angrier. And they have been taking out their anger on him for nearly 10 years now.
I agree. What do you think, by the way, about the relationship between the United States and Qatar, even though that we know that Qatar funding terror around the world against Jewish people, against Israel. What do you think about the relationship that President Trump have with Qatar these days?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question to obviously talk about because I think we're all concerned for, obvious reasons. I
Yeah,
think if you ask Donald Trump, he would be like, yeah, that makes sense. I know why I talk to some people and why I don't talk to others and why people would be nervous about this. He's incredibly smart and very intuitive. And I think because of that, I think he believes he's able to have relationships with folks that he knows are less genuine than other relationships. He's the president of the United States. And I remember him being attacked for any kind of relationship with Russia that people were twisting and turning into a million different untrue things. But in the grand scheme of things, Russia attacked Ukraine and went into Ukraine on Joe Biden's watch, not on Donald Trump's watch. I remember when he met with the leader of North Korea, everybody said this was going to cause World War III. Instead, tensions, died down and everything was okay. So I take it the same way. I have to trust the man that I not only know for 10 years, but the man that I voted for and worked for to become the leader of the free world and trust that he knows what he's doing and who he's dealing with. He's much smarter than me. He's much smarter than most people. He knows what happens in Qatar. He knows where Hamas leadership were hiding out. He's very aware. He also probably knows that because of his relationship with Qatar and I guess the conversations he was able to have, despite people warning him not to, he was able to bring hostages home, including Americans. So I think for him, it's about making sure that those relationships exist no matter what they look like to people, because at the end of the day, the right thing ends up happening. It doesn't mean that he views Qatar as a best friend and an ally like he would view France or Israel or anything else. It just means he believes you should have a working relationship with anyone in the world in case you have to get anything done to better the lives of Americans. And so far, he's been proven right on every single ally and every single adversary. So I have no reason to question him.
do you feel there's been a shift in the atmosphere in the US toward Jews and towards Israel?
Yeah, I mean, again, October 7th was supposed to turn people around and make them realize the threat that Jews and Israelis and even Americans, anyone really that follows our Western way of life, the threat that we are under 24/7. That's what they should have realized, that there are really these barbaric terrorist groups that want to go in and slaughter innocent people because that's what they believe in. And instead, people went in the other direction. That obviously means that we are struggling. It means that there's a threat against us all the time because people can see us. I mean, the videos that came out from October 7th are some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. And there are decent, hardworking, everyday Americans that watched those same videos and came out and thought, I hate the Jews now. I don't know how that happens. Obviously, that means we have a problem. If you look at any of the protests that have gone on around the country the last 2 years. I mean, I'm scared as a Jew. I know that eventually when I have young Jewish children, I'm not going to let them, if I had a son, I don't know if I'd let him walk the streets in a kippah in New York City because there are people that see that kippah and think that is a colonizing Zionist. I don't know if they know what any of those words mean, but that's the atmosphere that I feel right now. So I, as someone who grew up in New York, who as a little kid assumed that like 80% of the world was Jewish because it was all I knew. My mind has been blown for sure, and I think anyone would admit that. I'm grateful again to President Trump because he seems to be the only person that's not kind of falling for this and going with the tide and becoming, I mean, I guess a conspiracy theorist and an anti-Semite, and I appreciate him for that. But it's been really hard, and there's certain places that I think Jews can still feel safe for sure. But it's scary that the country that my parents fled to and so many others fled to be safe as Jews now still makes you worry and makes you wonder. And
Yeah.
people have to ask me, should they send their kids to certain schools? Should they allow their son to wear a kippah outside? Should they still have a Magen David on their neck? Like those are questions and conversations my grandpa was having back in the Soviet Union with people, and I never thought I'd be having them here in America. And it's sad that this is where we are, but it is obviously very true.
I agree. What message do you have to give to all those people who still don't believe that President Trump isn't playing games?
I mean, look at that mugshot. Look at his eyes, and you tell me if he's playing games. I don't know. He's actually really funny. So I hope if they think he's playing games, it's because they think that he's like too funny and too cool for any of this. Look, I don't know how you watch the last 10 years and have honestly anything but like good feelings about him. I understand not agreeing with him on everything politically, but what that man went through to win in 2016, what he's gone through after between the years 2021 and 24, what it took to get back into that White House and how much he works to accomplish every single day and works to keep every single promise he ever made, you have to respect it. And I get if you disagree politically, there are Democrats and Republicans, there always have been and always will be. But I think the man deserves respect. I think he deserves a lot of our gratitude. And I would hope that when he's out of office in a few years, even those that dislike him can learn from him and realize truly what it means to be an actual leader. Because I never really saw one growing up in America in any of our politicians. And this was the first time I did. And I will look to that for the rest of my life to know how I want to vote and the kind of person that I want to be. And I hope that more people do the same thing.
Regarding Iran, President Trump will step in.
I can't get ahead of the president, but I remember having these conversations a few months ago when people were talking about Iran, and everyone told me nothing was going to happen, and I said maybe, but just trust the man and don't trust your neighbor or whatever expert you're listening to on TV. Just kind of wait to see what Donald Trump does, and it's probably going to be the right thing, and it was the last time. And I think there's conversations, of course, being had that we are not privy to and that we don't know about. So I can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes. But I believe if Donald Trump thought he could make any situation better for the people of Iran or for the region in general, he would get it done. So I'm sure he's calculating that right now. And that helps me sleep at night, knowing that he is 24/7 working and trying to calculate what the best move would be.
He will make Iran great again. Looking ahead to 2028, a third Trump term, yes or no?
I mean, I'm a yes. I've always been a yes. People don't love that. We'll see what happens. In Donald Trump's America, you can never say never because people told me in 2015 that I was an idiot and he was never going to win. And they told me he wasn't going to come back, and here we are. So I'm a yes. I will always vote yes on Donald Trump, but we'll obviously see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. But if not, Rubio or Vance?
We have a long time. Everyone is talking about this as if like 3 years in American politics isn't basically like 5 decades.
It's
We
true.
will see what happens. I mean, so much is going to change, but I mean, they're very, very popular, and I think that's a really good thing. Very rarely do you have a vice president that everyone kind of gets to meet for the first time because he really was a first time senator just before he was, chosen as VP. And he's that popular so quickly. You very rarely have a secretary of state that people love so much. Back in the
He's not
day,
just the Secretary of State. He's
no,
the
no, he's
president of,
everything.
he's the president of
Yeah,
everything.
everything. He's going to be the
he's,
president of a lot more stuff.
he's
By
going to
28,
replace Megyn Kelly.
he's going to do a lot. He's way above Megyn Kelly. But yeah, I mean, honestly, this rarely happens. Like, when do you have people who even, like, young people who even follow who the Secretary of State is? And now everybody knows because he's doing so well. So I think it's great. And I hope people are excited about the administration and the team that Donald Trump built. And we will see what happens. But I can only imagine Donald Trump is not going to abandon the party or the country. And will make a really good choice for an endorsement when he goes out.
Where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years from now? Media, politics, or something completely different?
Probably a combination of the two. 5 or 10 years is a long time. Again, who knows what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years. But I've had a really, really, really special experience with whatever it is that God set me up for. I did not expect to walk in and make a guy president, meet my husband, and then get this journey of 10 years. So whatever God wants for me, I'll be grateful, but hopefully I'm happy, right? Because I know a lot of people in politics that are very, very unhappy. So as long as I stuck to my guns and I defend the Jewish people, I defend my country, and I end up on the right side of history and happy, that's all that matters.
I agree. What's your dream?
I mean, maybe to be president. I don't know. We'll
Why
see.
not? Why not? In America, you can.
In America, you can do anything. We'll see. I mean, crazier things have happened, so we'll
Agree.
find out.
Elizabeth Pipko, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.